Diane, we are absolutely honoured to have you as one of the ambassadors, the brand ambassadors of the Governance Institute of Australia. I was wondering if I might leave it to you to introduce yourself to our audience.
Thank you so much, Megan, and I am delighted to be a brand ambassador for the Governance Institute of Australia. So I am a Perth-based independent non-executive director. I've been here on the lands of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and let me pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. So I've been here for just over a decade now. Before that, I spent almost 25 years out of Perth, over east, as we like to say, here in Western Australia. But I lived and worked in Asia, in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, and then in the United States. So my portfolio is quite diverse, and I have designed it that way. I'm a board member of a couple of large listed Australian companies, but I also chair a government body, sit on the board of a state government agency, have pretty substantive pro bono activity around education and economics, and am a board member of a mutual organisation. So quite a lot of diversity there. I played a lot of sport in my younger days, and so I have done things in sport as well with Basketball Australia, because basketball was my sport. And now I'm a little involved tangentially with the anti-doping movement.
Wonderful. Diane, it's fantastic to have you leading one of the panels for our conference at the end of the year. We're just so absolutely delighted. It's our first virtual national conference, albeit that we ran a virtual governance and risk management forum earlier this year. And many people who are attending the conference are going to be aspiring directors and even many experienced directors. In your opinion, what is the value for them to attend?
Well, the session that I'm doing at the conference is actually, for me, getting the band back together in a virtual format, because a couple of years ago, I had a little frolic on Sky Channel running a show called The Boardroom. I was the host. It was an hour-long program, and I would get some non-executive directors and a sitting CEO to come, and we're on a panel and we would talk about the issues of the day and explore a governance issue. And that was virtual because there was no live audience. We just curated and talked about what we thought was interesting. And the feedback that I got was amazing, because I was told it's really like a window into a boardroom. Well, that was, we called it the boardroom. We tried to behave like a boardroom. And so this is exactly what we're going to do with this panel session, is we will reprise the boardroom, and we will try to take questions from the audience to understand what their questions about the governance issues of today are, and we'll give our perspective on that. And so we have a sitting CEO, the president of VCA, Tim Reid, and a couple of non-executive directors, and myself and Ming Long, and Matt Beckier from Star is going to be our CEO. So I think that's the type of experience that you can have, because having attended so many of the conferences over the years, I think it is that very granular examination of governance issues and what does it actually mean when the rubber hits the road, and giving people that window into how other directors are thinking. And so I think this is what you get from the conference, and I see no reason why the virtual format is going to be any different. And certainly the Q&A panel is, it's going to be a lot of fun.
It is absolutely going to be a cracker. I can't wait for it personally. Now, this year's theme is around leadership, trust and foresight. And of course, it's been a year where foresight's been really difficult. What's been your biggest learning over the last 6 months as Australian organisations have tackled so many historical global socioeconomic issues, including, of course, the pandemic?
The biggest learning for me has been reinforcement of something that I learned during my consulting career, which is your ability to do what you want to do today is determined by what you did for the last 2 years. And that's sort of the definition of foresight to me. And so now actually that time frame has accelerated. So you never have 2 years to do anything. So it's how can organisations continue to lead in this much accelerated cycle time world and still maintain the trust of customers and staff through that process. Because without those two groups with you, you really have nothing. So that's the learning for me, is that this need for looking around that corner and taking some judgment-based bets on where you do your investments is going to be the thing that's going to determine long-term success or otherwise.
So what tips do you have for directors to navigate these sort of uncertain times?
So I think the most important tip is that you always need to have today's answer. Always have a perspective. If you don't understand the strategy of the company, the risks that it's facing, and therefore how that strategy is going to respond to them, and a sense of what that trajectory is going to be in that context, you're not actually doing your job. So carving out some time to step away from the weeds of some of the day-to-day governance and some of the uncertainties and concerns, that are really very valid, and we absolutely have to address about our people's safety, both physically and mentally, but carve out that bit of time to always know your personal elevator speech about your company. Because when directors bump into each other, be it in the physical or the virtual world, you always say, people say to me, "Oh, how's AGL travelling?" What do you actually say? If you can't answer that question in an appropriately, respecting confidentiality, etc., sort of a way, but you don't really know the answer, you're not doing your job as a director.
Yeah, absolutely. So what advice would you give to young professionals about becoming a director? How do you get the first gig?
Well, I think a lot of people these days try to go too early, and they think that maybe curating a nice portfolio of directorships is a really interesting way to have a flexible and stimulating and challenging life. Well, of course it is. But let me tell you that your ability to be a director is going to be shaped by the executive experiences you have. So the more of those you can have and the more senior they are, the more interesting the board situations that you're going to be offered will be. So don't go too soon is the first thing. But you do need to prepare. So how do you educate yourself effectively? What are the sorts of courses that you might want to do, the things you want to read? And obviously the Governance Institute is a really good place to start with all of that, because I've always felt that the content in Governance Institute is quite snackable. Particularly the journal has always been something that has got that snackable approach to the world. And the courses, you can do the things that will take you to a full qualification, but there are also many things you can do that are quite accessible there. So you need to show you're interested by getting educated. And obviously another way of doing that is by taking some pro bono passion type play directorships along your way, be it sporting things like I did. I was involved in the sports drug agency, or finding some things that are non-conflicting, that are close perhaps to some areas that your company might be interested in. So at Wesfarmers, a number of the executives are asked to be part of some of the organisations' boards where we're providing them with some funding. Government boards, you can often find one like I did with the sports drug agency that doesn't conflict your day job and doesn't take so much time, but you learn your craft a bit. But it is not about, you don't go up steps. You need to be very careful not to get yourself typecast as a not-for-profit or a government type director. So a little bit of involvement is a good thing sort of early on. And where do you find what's the right way to do that? Well, a really good way is to network with the right people. If you can build connections with directors where you can find appropriate mentors, people that have done things that you want to do, that have stepped the path. It's not about getting married to them. You don't have to talk to them every week or keep them up to date, but just knowing people that you can get some sound and frank advice from is a really good way to think about starting to build that set of experiences that will, over time, fit you for finding that right board.
Well, Diane, thanks for your time today. I absolutely cannot wait for your session at the conference. It's going to be fabulous. And I will talk to you very soon. Thanks a lot for being with us.
Very much my pleasure. It's been a great session. Thank you.